again and welcome to the channel. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. A big hello to all my regulars. Thank you for tuning in again and seeing what we're making today. And a special hello and welcome to my new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, and I hope that you really enjoy having a deep dive into the videos that are on the channel. And if you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy the video. Now, what are we making today? We're going on with our envelopes that we made. Now, I made these DIY window envelopes in my last video, and I mentioned to you that I was going to put them into this chocolate box that my husband and I got when we were in Nuremberg in Germany. We bought these gin pralines, and we brought them home, and we just gradually ate them over a week or two, and they were delicious, by the way. But you can see that I haven't opened it up and planned this very much. I wanted to do it on camera with you, but I did make some envelopes that I can put some ephemera into, and these are designed to sew into this journal, and then I will glue them shut and we'll be able to put some different types of ephemera in it, and you'll be able to see the ephemera through the window. Now, if you'd like to see that video, I will have it linked below for you to have a look at it if you wish, and it'll also be on the end screen of this video. But it's going to be a little bit of let's just see how it unfolds, and we'll problem solve along the way, and hopefully the video doesn't go too long. I don't have a lot planned. Like I said, I do have a bit of fabric out, but other than that, I don't have much done. We'll cut some paper and things along the way. All right, let's get set up and we'll start pulling the box apart. Okay, now I want to try and preserve a fair bit of this box because I want it to reinforce my edges. So I'm hoping that I can get it apart and save a fair bit of the edge. Now, all I'm trying to do is to separate the glue where they've joined it together, but I don't particularly want the cardboard to separate. I want just the glue to come apart. There we go. That's much better. And I will just tidy up this edge here, because we're going to see that edge a little bit when we fold it over. So there we go, we have the box apart. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to ink the edge in black where we can see a black edge. So I'll get my black soot, and I'm just going to ink up that edge a little bit. It is a little bit glossy, this paper, so the ink's going to brush off of it a little bit, but I just want to knock back any white bits. You can see there's a few white bits there, so let's at least just knock them back. And it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be whatever it is, because we're making it out of junk and busting our stash with doing the envelopes. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to glue down these edges. So I will need to cut out a little bit of meat out of some of these corners. So let's just miter these back a little bit more. So there we go. I've done the miters on the corners just so that they lie flat, and I'm going to glue those edges down now. I really enjoy making something out of nothing. I think I've said this before. I get a lot of satisfaction out of creating something that would have been rubbish and discarded and overlooked. The only downside is that sometimes the process takes a little bit longer than you expect. Now, where I separated this cover, you can see that some of the edges have come apart from each other. I'm going to fix that first and get it to sit flat and glue back together. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Annie, why aren't you cutting them off? Are you just going to cover it with paper anyway? Why not cut it off so it's flat? Or I'm not actually going to be covering the front cover, because the front cover of this box has been my inspiration from the very beginning, with Our Lady on the front that has all of the flowers and the fruits and the botanicals around her to obviously make gin, because the chocolates were gin flavoured pralines, and all of the botanicals that are in the imagery on the front of the box, I want to see that. So I'm not actually going to be covering the front cover with anything to hide the lady. I'm going to be using her as my focal point, and I'm just going to be prettying up the front cover a little bit, maybe with a little bit of fabric for her dress, because her dress has got all of the wording on it for the marketing, so I don't really want that on there. You can see here, I'm going to hide this, but I like her and I like all of the fruit and the pheasant and the flowers and the imagery on the packaging. Okay, so there we go. You can see that I have glued all that down. Now I'm going to just move on to something else while I let that set a little bit, and we'll come back in and we'll pack this out with some other bits of cardboard and strengthen it up a bit and get it level. Now you can see on Our Lady here that she's got words on her dress, and her dress looks a little bit like a gin bottle. I don't really like that. I want it to be a little bit more organic. This is all very organic looking. So I'm going to cut around her hand and her arm, and then I'm going to threadle in some fabric to lay over the top of this. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. So let's see how we can do that. So I'm just going to use my sharp knife and carefully cut around here. So you can see that I have cut around the top of her dress and at her hands so that I can slide something in. So let's just ink that up a little bit so that it hides some of the bird cardboard. And now I have pulled out some fabrics and ripped some fabric up. And I'm thinking that I would like to just cover that dress up a little bit with a base cloth, and I've done it in a green. I'm thinking I want to just pull that through, and I'm okay with it pleating a little bit around the skirt. I'm going to actually glue that down, and I'm just going to use art glitter glue because it's going to have lots of other things over the top of it. And let's pull that up a bit so that it pleats nicely. Oh yes, that's working okay. I might need a little bit of glue just around the edge. Okay, so there we go. There's Our Lady with her dress. So we can't see the words. Now all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lay down some of these frayed bits that I've pulled out and position them in a bit of a grouping of how I like the colours together. And I just wanted some strips of fabric that pulled out some of the colours that were in the fruits and the flowers. And before we glue anything down too much, we're going to need to put a ribbon in for a closure. Oh, I only just remembered that. That was a good pickup, Annie. Let's cut off a piece of ribbon. We might get some double-sided tape to just hold that in place. Well, that was a good save, wasn't it? That I remembered that at the last minute before I started threadling in some of these. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lay these in, cut them a little bit longer because I want to push them through, and push them up through her hand and place them. You can see that I'm just pulling them through the other side, and I will lay them flat on the other side so that they don't bunch up too much. What do we got next? Let's put this one down, and another piece of this one. Yes, I'm so thrilled that some of you really loved those envelopes. I think I mentioned that I am on a bit of a run at the moment of coming up with storage solutions for my craft room. I really want to sort out my craft room. I need to have a de-stash, to be honest. Oh yes, I'm liking how that's going. See how dress is sort of just all little scrap bits of fabric, and I don't want them all the same length. Now we'll put this one on as if it's almost like a little bit of a old used apron. Make it a bit shorter. So I think what I'd like to do now is I think I'd like to just take this to the sewing machine and run a little bit of a stitch just around this bit here to stitch this in so that they don't come loose, and it'll also hold that closure ribbon in place as well. So I'll see you in a moment. Okay, let's have a little look at that. So you can see that I have stitched on the skirt and all those little bits of fabric, and you can see when I was stitching that the material moved a bit. So I'm really pleased that I glued down this base cloth first so that it becomes part of her skirt as well. And it's got lots of texture and I'm happy with that. And I don't want to overdo this. All I'm going to do now is put something up here to hide that, but maybe as a little banner about what the journal is about, because it's going to be a ephemera storage journal. And I've got a ribbon there, and you can see that I have just put a piece of double-sided tape on the back and put a piece of ribbon in. And the reason I did that was so that I wouldn't forget to do it before I glued things down. Now let's do something with this spine. And I had a piece of washi on here just trialing it, but I didn't like how I could still see the gin praline through it. So I'm going to get a Sharpie and just go over that a little bit and black it out so that it doesn't shine through the washi as much. Now I'm not worrying about covering the spine too much because I'm going to be sewing through it. Now I'm just going to pull out a piece of washi. I might actually tear it so it's a little bit more organic. And it's All and Create number 38. And it's got some bees and some numbers on it. It says, "Bugs never bug my heart." I don't think Gretchen here would be bothered by some bugs. We have lots of bugs here in Australia. There's quite a few people that don't want to know about the bugs here in Australia, so we won't talk about that too much because people are a bit funny about bugs. Okay, that's okay. So see how it just is disguising it a little bit, and covering up that text meant that it wasn't so noticeable. So I'll just let that glue dry before I stitch it, and we'll go on to the back. Now I cut another piece of 49 and Market paper that we made. Which envelope did we make this out of? Ah, yes, the B envelope. So you can see that it's the same paper. It's a bit of scrap left over from this. And I'm going to actually put that on now, and I'm just going to ink it a little bit with some vintage photo, not with black, because I want to warm it up just a little bit. It's a little bit stark, and I'm wanting to bring in this nice goldy sort of colour. And I'm just going to glue that with art glitter glue onto the back of the cover. And you can see that I've cut it just so that it sits inside that white border that was on the packaging. And I have 2 pieces of ephemera out of my stash. Now this is out of Meadowbrook Farm from Paper Rose here in Australia. And it's just 2 little pieces of ephemera that I felt went okay. One's got flowers and cherries and butterflies, and one's a little label that says enjoy the little things. And I thought that that was really appropriate because this is going to house some ephemera. So enjoying our little bits and pieces of ephemera. So I think I'd like to just put that there on the back. So the starkness of the background is a little bit pulled back. So we'll just glue that on. I have already pulled out the things that I'm going to store in this, and it's going to be the perfect size for it because this ephemera I don't have a place for in my craft room, and I don't have very much of it, but I need to figure out a home. So we now have a home for it. So I'll load that in at the end. Okay, that's looking all right as a repurposed chocolate box cover, isn't it? I actually really like her skirt. Okay, now let's tidy up what's going on in here. I actually want this to lay down fairly flat, and if I cut it all off here there'll be a line, whereas at the moment it's sort of graduating. So I'm not actually going to cut very much of it off. I'm just going to glue it down so that it sits a bit better. And I won't need much packing up there, but let's put some packaging into these sections to level it out. And also I want to reinforce this spine a little bit. Okay, so I have some old packaging here, and it's about the thickness of what my card is here. Now all that's doing is packing up that base, so I'm just going to glue that down. You can see it's scrap packaging, and it's going to level it out so that when I put some pattern paper onto it, it doesn't show the dints so much. In the middle we want a piece that is that wide, and this will just give that spine a little bit more strength as well. I was mentioning in the last video that we were putting up some shelving for my grandson, and I think Celeste asked me how it went, or said, you know, good luck with it, and we got the shelves up. So thank you for your interest, Celeste. We did get the shelves up, and yesterday we got all of the Lego loaded up onto it. So he was so happy with it, and we have lots of space for more projects to go up. He said to me, oh, but Nonna, look at how many gaps there are now. Like I had on my other shelves, they were loaded with Lego, and now there looks like there's hardly any. I said, well, darling, someone's birthday's coming up soon, so you never know, you might get something to go on to it. So his face just beamed then, because he thought, oh, now I know why Nonna and Poppy were so busy trying to get the shelves up. I think he sort of thought then, oh, maybe Nonna and Poppy are giving me Lego for my birthday soon, which is correct, we are. All right, so we've got that down just to level it off. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to use some of that washi, and I'm going to put it down that join before I glue on some paper. So we want 2 lengths of washi to go on here with butterflies on. 10 numbers. Maybe she's counting all the bugs and the butterflies in her garden so she can see how productive her botanicals are going, because she might make gin. She might be a gin maker. Do anyone out there like gin? I like gin. My favourite gin is ginger and rhubarb gin. I think it's a Mayfair gin, something like that. Mayflower or Mayfair, something like that. It's my favourite gin because I love ginger and I love rhubarb. So it's definitely a winner for me. So that's looking good, isn't it? So now what I need to do with this is I need to cut some paper to glue onto these surfaces. So let's just measure it. So I'm just going to cut another piece of 49 and Market, and this is Vintage Artistry Naturalist, which is very appropriate for Gretchen, our hero on the front of our journal. And this piece of paper is called Meadow. So I'm just going to cut down 2 pieces to go on the inside cover. Oh yes, that will work okay, won't it? So let's ink that up. And I'm using 49 and Market so that it coordinates with the envelopes that I'm putting into it. Also because of how thick it is, because I've got lots of variation in levels here with the material. And a thinner paper would show all of those ripples and bumps. But hopefully this one hides them for me. I'm just using art glitter glue to glue it down, making sure that it misses the fold and that the cover opens and closes really easily. So you'll notice that I didn't put any pockets in this cover, and that's because I want all of the spare space to be allocated for my envelopes and for me to be able to put ephemera into those envelopes and for them to not be bulging the journal too much. You can see that that covers up Gretchen's skirt fabric nicely. Give that a good rub. Okay, there we go. There's our cover. I'm really happy with that. Now we just need to bring in our envelopes and stitch them in. So let's clear this up a little bit and do that next step. So now we're going to put our envelopes in that I made in the previous video. And you'll see that I have 3 different envelopes. One's got the letter B on it for bird. One's got an E on it actually for etymology. And one has flowers on it. Now when we stack them together, there's something interesting that's happening. If we look at the back, you'll see that I staggered my fixings. So this one opens with the swivel on the right. The next one opens with the swivel on the left. So it opens the opposite direction and it will stack there, and then the last one opens with the swivel on the right. And that was so that I'm not beefing up the brads and the heights of the brads and fixings all in one location. It's evening out the bulk a little bit. So I purposely altered the way that I cut the sheets so that the opening was on the opposite side. Now I also have a marker here. So I've measured my spine and worked out where I want the marker. And all I've done is I've measured the width and divided it by 4 because I want my 3 signatures, which are my envelopes, to be evenly spaced. So in width, I've gone 1 inch wide and then 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. And I've done that in 3 locations because I'm going to do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch to sew them in. So on each of these crosshairs, I'm going to push a hole into my spine. So I'll do that, and I'm going to do that with my pokey tool because my awl is actually quite thick. It's a chunky awl. Okay, so I've marked all of those holes and then I've pushed them through with a reasonable sized darning needle to create the holes. And the next thing that I have to do is I have to open up my envelope, and this is why I didn't have them glued shut, because I want to sew them in. And if I had them glued shut, I wouldn't be able to do that. So let's do one together and then I'll do the rest off camera. So I have another piece of paper here that has the coordinating marks as my spine. And you can see that I have done some little crosses on them for me to mark where I want to put holes in my envelope. So I'm going to lay that into the envelope. Now the only thing is it's slightly longer than the envelope, and that's because it's the width of my spine. So I just need to overlay it and get it centered. Now I'll try and hold that back for you so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to push holes with my needle through those marks, holding it into the corner. And I'm just pushing through and it's coming out. There's my needle there. And now that I've punched those 3 holes, I'm going to stitch that into my journal. So I want to find some nice coordinating floss. So I'll bring out my embroidery floss box, and I'm thinking that I like this color here. Actually, let's use that. And I'm going to do 1, 2, and a bit lengths. And I'm threading a needle. And I'm going to go down through the middle of my envelope, through my center hole in my journal, bring it out, through the top hole, and through the top hole of my envelope, all the way down to the bottom, through my bottom hole, and through the bottom hole on the journal. And I'll keep this over to one side and I'm going to pull it reasonably tight. And then I'm going to go back through this center hole again, mindful not to split the thread. And I'm going to pull that reasonably tight and tie a knot in it. And I'll do another knot over and under, and then under and over, and then I'll do another knot again because I don't want this to get caught on ephemera and come undone. And I'm actually going to cut that quite low because, like I said, I don't want the ephemera to get caught on it. So now we can close up our envelope. Let me get my double-sided tape and show you, just like I did the other day, that wherever my fold is, I'll put a little mark there and there. And I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided tape in. And then I'm going to put glue on there up to the line but not over it. And I'm actually going to spread that out because I don't want it to ooze. And we'll close that envelope over. Give it a burnish. And there we go. We have our first envelope attached into our journal. Isn't that fabulous? We'll put the card back in it. So there's our first envelope, and it's swinging nicely and it lays flat. So I will now sew in the other 2 envelopes and tidy up, and I'll come back to you and we'll put some ephemera in it. I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, I'm back and I've decorated just a little bit, but not a lot. So you can see here on the outside of the cover, Gretchen's got lots of different botanicals all around her. So I have cut out a little flag out of the offcuts from the 49 and Market paper that I was using, and it says peach, which I thought was appropriate because she's got all these fruits and flowers all around her. I also just rolled up a little bit of the same paper and made it look like a newspaper and put on a few little flowers and a leaf charm as if she'd been out in her garden and had collected some flowers and was wrapping them in a newspaper. So it's got a little bit of texture to it, but it's not overly chunky. And you can see that her apron and her skirt is textural and is working nicely. And that's all I want to put on it. I want the packaging to be the hero. I don't want to overload it. On the back, we did that little cluster together where we just put on enjoy the little things. And the reason I wanted that on there is because I want to put some little bits of ephemera in it. And you can see on my desk I've got some. On the side here, we've got our 3-hole pamphlet stitch. And it's firm, but it's not over tight. So it's not straining in any way. And you can see that it is tied with a ribbon, which gives it a little bit of expansion. If I want to put quite a bit in the envelopes, I would be able to just tie it, and it can do a little bit of gator mouth and it wouldn't matter. Now inside you can see the envelopes are all sewn in, and I've put some of my patches into a couple of them. So this one here's got handmade patches in it. This one's got some colourful juvenile sort of fun ones. And then we'll put these ones in together. I've got just some other little patches here that need to go in. And you can see that the envelope works really easily. You just swivel it and the access is good for you to put things in and out of. It's not hard to get into it. And the envelopes lay flat. So I'll just pop those in there. And this is now going to be my ephemera holder for all my little fabric patches. So isn't that wonderful? The pages turn really easily. And I'm using my window envelopes that I made in my last video. So if you do want to see that, I'll have it linked below or at the end of the video for you to click on it and watch how I made the envelopes ready for this project. And it will also be in my Junk Journal Gestures playlist if you're looking for it. I'm thrilled with how it turned out, and it just closes up and it's pretty enough actually for it to just sit on my desk somewhere, isn't it? Like it looks interesting. It's got a little bit of texture, a bit of personality. It's not too big and it's expandable. All right, there we go. There's one last look at it. I hope you really enjoyed seeing how I put together my ephemera storage mini journal today, and you enjoyed the process of seeing me upcycle a chocolate box into something useful and practical and pretty as well. And I hope you enjoyed seeing how the window envelopes can be used in different ways. So that's always great if you make a project and you can use it in a few different ways. All right, that's all from me today. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. That would be wonderful. And if you're not subscribed, think about subscribing to the channel just to help it grow. I'd really appreciate that. And I hope you have a fantastic week, everybody, having opportunity to make something fun and new in your crafty space. And I will see you again on Saturday. Thanks so much for stopping by again, everyone. I really appreciate it. Bye for now.